I'm watching this celebrity game. Looks like Team Shannon, they actually are going to win. Going to take out Team Stephen A.
They're still playing? What are the 3-hour game?
There's only 14 seconds left. A lot of dunks, though. I'm going to give them some credit. Micah Parsons and Puka Nacua, the stars. We'll see which one gets the MVP. But I tell you, Rob, the sad thing, and I actually mean this game is more competitive than the actual All-Star game.
That's terrible, Chris.
And it's true. Like, they're trying. They're out there trying. Rob G, you got it on. Am I wrong?
No, yeah, they're really going hard. I mean, Mike is legitimately sweating out there like it's the third quarter.
They are going at it. He's exhausted. And, that's how you play.
Well, I mean, at least he played hard there and not the postseason game. I'm just saying.
He tried. He just, didn't have it that game. But my point is, Rob, that we all know that something has to change with the All-Star game. And when I first recognized it, Rob, was 2014. The year it was in New York City at Madison Square Garden. And I remember Russell Westbrook won the MVP. And I remember thinking to myself after watching that game, like, how could you even choose an MVP? He had the most points or was up there in points. I don't know if he had the most. But it was such a disjointed, non-competitive game. You know what I mean? That is like, how you pick an MVP? Like, no, there was no resistance to anybody.
Do you remember, Chris, prior to that, I remember writing columns about where whoever's hometown it was, they used to feed them the ball for them to be the MVP. And that was bad. Do you remember that? That was bad, too. I used to be like, I think, is Glenn Rice from Cleveland, Chris?
No, but he won it. That year was in Cleveland because I remember writing the game story for that.
Do you remember that? Yeah.
Terrell Brandon was from Cleveland. There was thought. And it wasn't, to me at least, Rob, it wasn't so much we're just going to, it's not even going to be a game and we're just going to give this guy the ball and make sure he scores. It was like, to me, within the course of the game, we're going to try to, feed the guy who's from the hometown team.
Right.
And, if he does his thing, he can be MVP. We're going to give him a chance to be the MVP, a better chance, But it wasn't like, you know what I mean, where the defense wasn't defending or
I just remember,
no one else was shooting and things like that. That's all.
I just remember it was maybe 2 or 3 years in a row where the guy from the team or from their city, you know what I mean, was the MVP.
Yeah.
And I just remembered the Glenn Rice one. I was there for that too. I just thought,
Yeah, but Rob, I think, look, they trying to figure out how to fix it. And I think Eddie made a good point, and you've been there, as we've been to dozens of All-Star games. I will say, and I've said it before, but Eddie brought it up, Rob, it is true that there is so much other stuff going on. And Byron Scott's the one that said this, that the last thing on the players' minds is that game. And I firmly believe that. Because, it's Wednesday night is when the festivities begin. There are tons of parties every night. There's stuff going on during the day.
Don't forget some of those players, Chris, building houses, doing feeding people.
They do stuff for the NBA. NBA cares and all that. Right. And that's not even to mention, their marketing deals. So there's suites all over with Nike, Adidas, every company. And players are at those. And I'm telling Rob, just as a writer, I imagine you felt the same way. As a writer,
worn out.
By the time they get to the game at freaking 8 or 9 o'clock at night, 8 o'clock, whatever it is,
Sunday night. Right.
Yeah, it's like, come on, man, we don't even care about this game. I wonder so I think that there's so much going on that it's hard to get the game to be competitive again. But I wonder, and I don't think they do it. But Rob, you remember it used to be on in the afternoon. So what if you move the game up to the afternoon? Obviously, that makes guys at least think about, not going as hard Saturday night.
I'm going to stop you.
And go ahead.
Television doesn't want it during.
Well, yeah, I know what I mean. I know that it won't happen, right? But I'm just saying, do you think that would add? That would bring back at least a little competitive?
I hear you, but it's like when all the games are on late and people complain to the leagues, Chris, you know this, television is paying the freight.
Right.
They want the game on when they want the games on. They're going to start the NBA Finals at 9 o'clock.
Yep.
That's what time they're going to start them. They don't care.
Right.
The league doesn't want. You think the
whatever's
league wants
best for the ratings, but
right?
Yeah, So I think that might help. I think something that would definitely give it a pop, Rob, at least for a year or two, and we've mentioned it: the international versus the American. The problem is if the internationals destroyed us in the first year. Now, maybe the next year it'd be like, okay, yeah, all right, we going to show them this year. We're going to see what time it is.
Maybe.
And then if we got blasted again, then it's like, okay, it's just, you know what I mean? Like it's back to being what it was.
Then it'll be like Rocky, Chris. They got to, like the Rocky movies, right? First he fought the black guy, then the Russian. You got to go through all the steps, right? And then they'd have to get somebody from like Mars. It's got to be like an alien in order
What was Rocky 5? Tommy Morrison fought. Was that Tommy Morrison?
I think so.
Which he fought at 60.
But you remember
he fought the guy that beat Antonio Tarver, that beat Roy Jones. Remember that one when he was 60 and he fought.
But you know what I'm saying? It was always like predictable.
Yeah.
The black guy, which Carl Weathers right first. And then it was
it was Carl Weathers for the first two.
Right.
Then it was Clubber Lang, Mr. T.
Mr. T, right.
T,
and then it was
three,
the Russian.
And then it was Ivan Drago 4, yeah. And then 5, I think, was Tommy Morrison. I can't remember the exact storyline. But do you want to, Eddie brought up, a point, we were talking about the international versus the American. And I do think the international's likely to win. He brought up an interesting point. Obviously, Luka, Jokic,
I disagree with
these
Eddie.
guys aren't great defenders.
Yeah.
But here's what I thought about this, because initially I was like, that's interesting. But I've thought about it, Rob, and here's the thing. When we play these teams internationally, we wouldn't look at them as great defenders either, right? We weren't looking at Germany as great defenders this year or last year in the FIBA, and they still beat us.
Right.
And they don't have a Giannis. Like, they'll have a few good defenders, Embiid. Like they will have some guys who can defend, and obviously the lane. So, yeah, it'd be tough for us, man.
I think the international players would beat the American players. I really do. Like if they played all their guys, all the Chris, because all the MVPs,
they're starting 5.
Right.
Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, MVP candidate. Luka.
Yep.
Luka, they're not winning enough, but he's one of the best 5 players in the world. Embiid, Jokic, and Giannis. Those 3 are all MVP candidates. So all the MVP candidates are international. I mean, Jason Tatum maybe.
What do you mean? Rob G says he's protesting Embiid because he's American. He's dual citizenship.
He wants Embiid to play.
No, we get
America.
him, Chris.
He's got dual citizenship.
We get him. He's playing for Team USA
This is
basketball.
how far we've fallen.
Yes.
Right.
Now, some people want Canada too, Rob. They want the Canadians because it's North America.
No, that's a different country.
How far have we fallen where we're like Embiid, who also has citizenship in France, who's from Cameroon? We want him. We want Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. We want Jamal Murray, who's also from
Chris,
Canada.
How is it going to look if we have the All-Star or the Olympics this summer? Joel Embiid leads us to the goal for Team USA, and then next year in the All-Star break, he's playing with the world team.
He's not like, and I don't mean this in any negative way. Patrick Ewing grew up. What was he? He grew up in America to some degree. Didn't he play high school ball in America?
I think so. Yeah.
Right. And obviously Georgetown. Embiid played a year at Kansas, but he's from Cameroon. I hear what you're saying, but I'm just saying the bottom line, he's an international player. And so Rob, and look, once Steph, KD, and LeBron are gone, you really looking at tough sledding.
Yeah, it's going to be something. And you know what? That's sooner than later, Chris. It's going to be interesting to see how the league pivots and changes
well, they may be having these very conversations, Rob, and say, you know what, we don't need to do this. We don't need to have international versus American because they probably beat us now, but in 5 years, they mop the floor with us.
Right.
If they don't do it this year. You know?
Yeah, it's a dilemma. I don't know what you can do for the All-Star game. And as you said, I've covered a million of them, Chris, for a long time, dating back to the 80s when I was a beat writer. And I don't know what you do. I really don't. To make it worthwhile watching, it's not money. You can't offer people money. It's the style of play that's boring.
I agree.
You know what I mean? It's just
Rob, here's what I'm asking. I'm not asking for playoff intensity, right? No, we understand it. We don't even want that because maybe somebody get hurt. But here's what I'd ask, Rob. How about the intensity level that they play with when they play in the summer at UCLA or at the Drew League or in their open runs wherever they're playing them? How about that, right? You know they're competing. I mean, they're not lollygagging and throwing up 50-footers and stuff like they're doing in the All-Star game. They're actually playing hard. That's all we're asking for. We're not asking for the NBA Finals level intensity.
Right. Nobody wants that. It's just, can we be entertained? Can we just be somewhat entertained in a basketball game, Chris? And I think that's what, not just dunks, no fouls, three-pointers, like a million three-pointers. It was boring, I think is the word you used, right? Last year watching it, just boring.
It was unwatchable. It was unwatchable. Like, it was beyond boring. It was just a bunch of dudes out there just taking turns shooting ridiculously long shots or going in and dunking with no resistance.
Right.
It was unwatchable. And Mike Malone said, I mean, it was bad. And it doesn't have to be that bad. I remember, Rob, I don't remember what year it was, but I remember specifically David Stern was still commissioner. And the rookie-sophomore game was like this. The rookie-sophomore game was a joke. And it was essentially what the All-Star game has become. It was a bunch of dudes throwing up threes, uncontested dunks. And Stern said something. There was talk about that. Like
really?
That was embarrassing. That's not what our product is. And now, obviously, those players are now the stars. And they grew up playing more of a three-point shooting, game and all that. And knowing each other, having fun in AAU, so we're not going that hard at each other. And that's what's the real thing has become, the real All-Star game. So hopefully there'll be a change tomorrow or Sunday.